without further ado, I would like to have Dan Blinn from the Connecticut Coalition come on up. He's the co-chair of the Connecticut Coalition of Reason.
Well, good morning. I would like to actually start off by sharing with everybody my current Facebook status. Let's see. It's addressed to my daughter, Leanne, who is currently a student at college in Rhode Island, and to my wife, who is currently in Rhode Island visiting both her and her parents. And it goes like this. Attention, Linda and Leanne. Yes, I did remember to feed the cat and clean the box. Now, I'm on my way to give the welcoming address to a group of people who don't believe in miracles. I'll be thinking about that paradox on the ride down. But I lied to them because I really didn't think about that paradox too much, because like many miracles, the miracle of the cat box has a naturalistic and rational explanation. Last night, I went to Providence to have dinner with them. I wasn't able to be there for the whole weekend. But during the course of the dinner, I was reminded no less than 4 times, Dad, don't forget to feed the cat and clean the cat box. Dan, don't forget to feed the cat and clean the cat box. So I had a few reminders. They were skeptical that I might remember on my own. But just in case there was any doubt that that cat was going to get fed and that box was going to be cleaned, as I woke up this morning, I was being stared at by a cat, quite plaintively. So I went down and I fed the cat and I cleaned the cat box, and there you have the miracle of the cat box. Now, I left my home early because I had to stop off at my office, and it was still dark. And what I was thinking about was that beautiful Hunter's full moon last night. Did you see it last night? And it was still out. A lot of people drove quite a distance today, and a lot of people saw that. And what I actually did start to ponder was Bill Nye. And the reason why, a lot of people know this story, but in 2009, Bill Nye was giving a address to some people down in Waco, Texas. And he was trying to make the very serious point that we have a real problem with global warming, and that it's kind of hard to address that problem when you have so many people who deny science. So he thought, I'm going to take the most innocuous scientific fact, something that nobody's going to disagree with, and talk about how that contradicts the Bible just a little bit. So he mentioned that this beautiful moon that I was watching this morning, and that beautiful moonlight is actually reflected light from the sun. Well, some people in Waco will not stand for such blasphemy. And he was booed, and people walked out. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about the fact that some of those people that were booing and walking out on that, they're voting for people for the Texas Board of Education, which has a disproportionate impact on who gets to use, what textbooks are used in schools all over the country. And they're voting for people like Ted Cruz for the United States Senate, and other people all over the country are picking congressmen and senators who are making our laws and approving our judges that are going to have a very real impact on what happens in this country and the future of the entire planet. No less than that is at stake here. And I was also thinking a little bit that I'm having this, if I dare use the word spiritual in this room, this spiritual moment, looking at this beauty and thinking that people like Oprah Winfrey don't think I can experience that. I think it's a good thing that we're getting together to talk about these issues here in the Northeast. So, these are the reasons why the Connecticut Coalition of Reason and our member groups have come together to sponsor this conference. And together with the other co-chair, Daisy Cheng Milano, I welcome everybody this morning to the Secular Assembly for the Northeast. Welcome. The miracle of the cat box was not the only miracle I experienced this morning, because as I came down here, I came down Interstate 91. How many people came down 91 today? About half. How many saw the billboard on the way down? See, I did. But you see, I knew where that billboard was. And as I came up to it, I slowed down to about 40 miles an hour. So again, a very naturalistic explanation, but I did get to see it. And what a wonderful thing that we're doing. This is the coming out party for secular organizations in Connecticut, and we'd like to welcome you all here to that. We have a number of organizations that have set up tables, and you're going to be hearing speakers from each of these groups today. And I encourage you during the breaks to go out, talk, sign up, find out what's going on, talk to the representatives. And you may wonder why a state as small as Connecticut needs to have 8 different organizations. And the reason is that there are some differences between us, and we have different flavors. We have some groups that are doing book discussions and other groups that are doing protests at prayers in public halls. We've got some groups that are doing interesting speakers. We have other groups that are hiking through the woods. We have some groups that are building homes for Habitat for Humanity and manning soup kitchens. We've got other groups that are doing all different types of activities, social dinners, speakers. So check it out. Go to ctcore.org, our website, and you will be able to see a common calendar of everything that's going on with all the groups. You can get links to all of their sites and so forth. So in the spirit of people with diverse views coming together for this assembly, this self-avowed humanist has the extreme high honor of introducing a self-avowed atheist. And you know what? It's what happens when you don't follow it. You wind up losing your place. And it is my pleasure today to introduce David Silverman. David is the president of American Atheists. Among his many noteworthy accomplishments in his 17 years as an active atheist, he was the creator and the executive producer of the Reason Rally, the largest gathering of the secular movement in history. I went down there in March of 2012, and those of us who were there and stood with 20,000 other people in the rain will never forget the spirit of unity, harmony, and common purpose that we felt that day. David is also the author of I, Atheist, America's Loudest Heathen Fires Back. American's Loudest Heathen Fires Back. It's going to be released in March. So please join me in welcoming America's Loudest Heathen to the Secular Assembly for the Northeast, David Silverman.
Good morning, everybody. What are we, atheists or Unitarians? Good morning, everybody. That's better. America's loudest heathen fires back. Not America's kind of sort of interested fires back. My name is David Silverman. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming out so early. Thank you, Dennis, of course, and Tanya, and Adam, and Dave, and everybody, and Dan, who organized this. I'm going to be talking today about firebrand atheism. A lot of people have assumptions about firebrand atheism. A lot of people have wrong assumptions about firebrand atheism. Some of the wrong assumptions about it are what it is, and some of it are about how well it works. So I'm going to be talking today about the ethics and efficacy of firebrand atheism. Now, Dan was talking about his cat. I've got a dog. The dyslexic atheists are wrong. There is a dog. I got a shout out to Roy Speckert from AHA who made that for me. Today I'm going to be talking about what firebrand atheism is and what it is not. And then I'm going to use numbers. Atheists like numbers. I like numbers very much, and I hope you'll like the numbers that I come up with. And why you should be a firebrand. It's not just me telling you to be a firebrand, which I always do. I need to express to you why it's important for you to be a firebrand. If this is to be a coming out party for Connecticut atheists, some of you, maybe all of you, should be a little firebrandy sometimes. And I'm going to get to that in this presentation. Now, that picture, if I'm back here, can you hear me? No? It's not coming through. Okay, so I have to get close. Hi. This is Phil Plate, Dr. Phil Plate. He and I have never met. I like him a lot, though. I respect everything. I respect a lot of what he does, and I follow him on Twitter. He gave a speech, a now famous speech called Don't Be a Dick at TAM in 2008, 2009. And during that speech, he said, how many of you became a skeptic because someone got in your face, screaming, called you an idiot, brain damaged, and a retard? Now, he has gone on record since then that saying that he wasn't talking about anyone specific, and everybody still believes he was talking about me. I don't know why. Insane, fascist, pushing our views on everybody. Good old Bill O'Reilly, always reliable for some common sense there. And for all their ranting and raving and name-calling, these atheists will someday stand before God, Ken Ham, the bastion of logic and common sense. Now, while I will admit to some ranting and some raving, I don't call people names, and I'm not a fascist. See, the thing is that firebrand atheism isn't about that. It's not about that at all. Let's talk about what firebrand atheism is. I'll get to my friend Mohammed in a second. Firebrand atheism starts with a rule. Tell the truth as often as possible. That's not hard, right? That's easy. That's a very, very simple concept. But the emphasis is on the tell. Because firebrand atheists understand that silence equals acquiescence. Silence equals agreement. If somebody says something and you don't counter it, you are lying by omission of words. Tell the truth as often as possible. Religion is a lie. All of it. We know that. That's the truth. Gods are false. All of them. Yes, we know that. That's the truth. And respect is earned, and religion hasn't earned any. Belief in something doesn't by itself warrant respect. These are true statements. And firebrand atheism says to tell those statements because they're true. Don't feign respect for the unrespectable. See point 1, right? Because feigning respect for the unrespectable is a lie, right? Don't accept inequality or privilege as acceptable, even if it is the norm. The good example here is America's war on Christmas, right? Every time the season rolls around, the cities come out with their obvious favoritism toward one religion and their defense. We've always done that. Well, that's not fine. That's not cool. I don't care if you've always broken the law. You can't break the law this year. It doesn't matter if it's your tradition, if it's illegal, or if it's wrong. You don't get to do it anyways. If someone claims to be offended by the truth, it's because they are used to this privilege. They're used to you not talking poorly about their religion. So they say, oh, I'm offended when you do that. That's too bad. Don't let I'm offended by your words silence you. You're not talking offensively if you're talking truth. Clarify that it's your beliefs, that it's their beliefs, not the people with who you take. And finally, well, and finally, if someone tries to limit your freedom using their religion, do points 1 to 4 only louder. Now, here's a very good example. Muhammad. By the way, for the camera and for the audience, I represent that picture as the Prophet Muhammad of Islam. Why? Why do we do that? We don't draw Muhammad and put up pictures of Muhammad just to piss off Muslim people. Some people say we are. That's not the point. Because we didn't do it at all until when? Until they told us we couldn't. South Park. Anybody watch South Park? Old version of South Park, old issue of South Park, had one of their cartoons had Muhammad as a player. Remember that? Since the Muslim people decided that we had to obey their laws, since they decided that we had to obey their religious traditions, that cartoon is censored for you. They decided what you couldn't see. They said, it's against our religion for you to show our prophet, so you can't. I am reminded of an old joke I saw on the internet. A man one walks up to man two, notices the man is wearing a Mason ring. First guy says, oh, you're wearing a Mason ring. You must be a Mason. Second guy says, no, I'm not a Mason. I just like the ring. First guy says, well, it's Masonic law. You can't wear the ring unless you're a Mason. Second guy says, well, it's a good thing I'm not a Mason. I don't have to obey those laws. When they come to us and say, you have to obey our laws, that is a small step toward theocracy. And one thing that I have learned in 17 years of activism, please remember this, folks. Little steps lead to more little steps. There's nothing here that's an end game. They want to use political correctness. They want to use threats. They want to use anything they can. For what reason? To get us to obey their rules. The answer is no. When they tell us to do something, or when they tell us not to do something, it's our job as American citizens to protect our rights to do whatever they're telling us not to do. Now, having defined what firebrand atheism is, I want to show you some numbers. Numbers are good, right? Numbers are nice. This is something that I used to, that I put together because people were asking me, how do you know it's working? How do you know firebrand atheism works? Well, the next few slides, I'm going to show you this. Now, what you're seeing here is two lines. The blue line is Google searches for the word atheist over time. Google searches for the word atheist per month. The red line is the floor of those searches. What does that mean? Well, when those Google searches spike, it's usually for a reason. Something happens to make those spikes. Atheism is in the news. Something makes people look up atheists for one reason or another. And then when there's nothing happening to make people look up atheists, the searches go back down to that red line level, which is the floor. And that is a barometer for atheist normalcy. How many times people are looking up atheism without being coaxed on a regular basis. And as you can see, it goes up and down and up and down. But then in Christmas of 06, something happens. In Christmas of 06, that line goes up, and then it never goes back down to that first floor. Something happened to make atheist normalcy rise, to make people start looking up atheism more often without provocation. Interesting. What was that? Well, if you look right before it, right in the late 2006 area, that's when The God Delusion, Letter to a Christian Nation, and God is Not Great came out. They went on tours, everybody started reading it, and atheist normalcy was affected. And that's where the line sat for a little bit. Then, as time goes on, we get a bigger picture. First of all, you see Christmas '06, Christmas '07, Christmas '08, Christmas '09. Those are our wars on Christmas. That's the O'Reilly factor. Okay? Every time he gets on there, the O'Reilly factor, oh, war on Christmas, atheists are killing everybody, and they're killing Jesus, and everybody looks up atheists, and then afterwards, of course, there's a trough after the peak. But look what happened in Christmas '06. You can see that it went up and it never went down. And then in Christmas of '08, do I have a cursor? Can you see my cursor? You can't. In Christmas of '08, a spike happened that raised the floor again. What was it? Well, if you Google, and this isn't hard to do, December 2008, atheist, you'll get one big thing happening. Richard Dawkins put bus ads all over London, made huge news. Stop worrying and enjoy your life. Remember those ads? Changed a lot of things. It really brought things into the news, and people started talking about atheism regularly, without provocation, more often. Atheist normalcy rose. And that little tail on the end, that little bit right here, that is September of 2010. Two things happened in September 2010. Number one, the Pew Research came out that said atheists know more about religion than religious people. More importantly, I was elected president of American Atheists. And then we embarked on a campaign of firebrand atheism. You know it's a myth, you know it's a scam, etc. And this is what happened. Now, that jump, just for you to see, that red line right here, this jump, is twice as big as these two jumps, and it happens over half the time. Twice the jump in half the time. Why? What did these spikes, what happened at these spikes to bring that normalcy up? Well, let's do searches on every month and the word atheist to find out what the headlines were for that month. You know it's a myth. You know they're all scams. You know there is no God. We know you're right. You know it's nonsense. That's the billboard war with the rapture people. Remember that? At Christmas 11, tell your family there are no gods. They'll probably agree. The Arabic and Hebrew billboards that we put in New York and New Jersey. The number one, the Reason Rally. The next, the Christian and Mormon billboards. We had a Mormon billboard on a truck that followed the Mitt Romney campaign around. That was fun. And finally, the Christmas billboard in Times Square. So, every single one of those peaks corresponds with an ad campaign or a major event on the American Atheist's plate. Every single one. That's interesting, but of course, we're not quite ready to make our conclusions yet, because we don't know if our stuff, if our ads even worked on American Atheists. Do we really have a correlation between our ads and American Atheist points and how those stack up to these? Why, yes, we do. These are searches for the word atheist, and these are searches for the word American Atheist. I think we can agree that American Atheist spikes are only going to happen when American Atheists have activity, and this is evident right there. As you can see, right in that first spike, that's December of 2010. That's You Know It's a Myth. And the question is, how well do those spikes line up with the norm? Like that. Almost perfectly. And the only imperfect one is right here. The only miss is right there, and that's because this happened at the very end of the month, and the spike happened the next day. American Atheist spikes are pushing. It almost looks like they're pushing up the norm. It almost looks like they're pushing up the floor. So searches for American atheists, which only come from our activity, meet peak for peak. But that's not enough. Because other people will say, maybe we're all going up. Well, I can't leave. Other people will say, maybe the entire movement is lifting. But if that were the case, we'd see similar pushes for other terms, which is exactly what we don't see. Over the same period of time, searches for humanist, secular, agnostic, and skeptic, either stagnant or declining over the same period of time. Only atheist is rising. And this is after my good friends and compatriots at the AHA and the CSH and CFI put up huge ad campaigns on Coalition of Reason, huge humanist ad campaigns. But the name isn't going, the name isn't sticking. That's what it looks like. The only interesting peak here is right there for agnostic, that green peak right there for agnostic. That should be ignored. I looked at what that is. That's when the president said he was agnostic on campaign finance reform. So if you ignore that peak, you can see very clearly how atheist and only atheist is leaving the pack and increasing over time in direct correlation with American atheist activities. So, proof positive? Oh wait, I didn't get the proof positive yet. This is the fun part. This is atheists calling ourselves atheists. Now I know we all have our own little quibbles about what names we should call ourselves. Guess what? I don't care what you call yourselves. You're atheists. Deal with it. And some atheists call themselves this, and some atheists call themselves that, but atheists calling themselves atheists is the cherry. That's the part that gets firebrandy. That's the part that negates the prejudice, that beats down the ignorance. Atheists calling themselves atheists is important. Now, this slide does not come out perfectly, so I need you to remember this. That bottom line is the people calling themselves atheists. That top line is people calling themselves agnostic. You see how they uptick. How does that relate? Again, this isn't going to come through. So just look at the bottom of that blue line and watch this. Okay? If you take the searches and you line them up against the increases in people calling themselves atheists, they raise at the same time, at the same slope, to the same extreme, under the same time frame. Atheist and agnostic. Both increase at the same time as atheist normalcy, all of which is impacted directly, seemingly, from American atheist activity. I'll say it again. The number of atheists calling themselves atheists is increasing in the exact time and at the exact same rate as American atheist activities. Does that make sense? Now, interesting that agnostic goes up at the same time. Agnostic goes up at the same time, and we did not see an increase for the use of the word agnostic in the search functions. Agnostic is going up along with atheist, but nobody is searching for agnostic. Why? We all know the answer. Agnostic is a stepping stone term. People are coming out of the closet and they're using agnostic first. They're not searching for agnostic. They're searching for atheist, and they're saying, well, I'm an agnostic. And they're increasing. That's a stepping stone. So what does that mean? Well, it means we don't have proof positive, right? We don't have proof positive because there can be no proof positive. All we have is correlation. Correlation does not equal causation. But if you look at all three of these things, that's a lot of correlation, folks. It's not causation, but that's a lot of correlation. I mean, you can see on the left side, you can see here that American atheist activity is pushing up the norm. You can see it. If And the important thing here is this. If you went back in time and you looked at our strategy from 2010 and you said, what do you expect to see? What could you hope to see? If everything firebrand atheism, if everything Dave Silverman wants firebrand atheism to be is true, what should we expect? And the answer is, if we were 100% right, this is exactly what we would see. Little by little, push by push, tick by tick, raising awareness, raising the normalcy, raising the amount of people calling themselves atheists, raising the amount of people calling themselves agnostic, diminishing the demonization of the word atheist, making it more acceptable to be an atheist in this country. How does that work into numbers? Right there. Same charts. That red line is where the norm would have been without the advertising. The blue line is where, of course, it is. That comes out to 942 additional self-described American atheists who are calling themselves atheists because of American atheist activity. An additional 1.25 million people calling themselves agnostics, apparently as a direct result of American atheist activity. Now, sometimes, folks, people come to me and they say, what do you get when you join American Atheists? Do I get a card? Do I get a discount? Do I get a plaque? Well, you get a card, but this is what you get. This is what you get. Real, quantifiable results from real activity. And I love my friends in this movement. I love my other friends in this movement. But guess what? None of the other organizations in this movement can do what I just did. Because none of the other organizations of this movement are hitting people using the word atheist like we are. Nothing beats firebrand atheism. So why be firebrands? Because it's more about efficacy, right? It's more about efficacy. There's ethics involved in being a firebrand. But people need to know. By the way, that's the truck that followed around Mitt Romney. People need to know that open and harsh criticism of religion is okay, and it is indeed good and necessary. People need to hear it. They need to hear religion being called a silly myth because it's the truth. They need to hear God being called a backwards relic of the Neanderthal era because it is. They need to hear it. Even if it is distasteful, they deserve to hear it. Folks, I want you to understand something. Religious people are not stupid. They're injured. Okay? We all know smart religious people. We all know people with master's degrees and PhDs who think that there's an invisible man in the sky who hears them when they think hard. That's not reasonable. But that's not dumb. It's injury. These people are victims of brainwashing by the biggest lie in the history of the planet. They're not dumb. They're not evil. And we are doing a good work by helping them see it. It is our responsibility to help them. And they deserve it because they're nice people. They're just injured people. You know, I'll mention quite quickly that my wife is Jewish. My wife went to a yeshiva when she was young, came out religious. My wife is the victim of brainwashing. Now, that doesn't mean I get in her face and call her a retard, right? But I will tell her that she's a victim of brainwashing because it's the truth. And then when she says no, I say, well, yeah. And then we talk about it. And she admits it. She sees it. And don't let anybody ever tell you that sending a kid to a religious school is better than sending their kid to a public school because the religious school is better. That's crap. They hurt children, just like they hurt my wife. and they need to be, these injured people, we have to recognize they need our help. Bigotry comes from ignorance, right? People who hate atheists usually don't know atheists. Forcing the conversation allows enlightenment and de-demonizes atheism and atheists, and that is why I ask everybody here to always use the word atheist when you describe yourself. Always use the word atheist. Because I've got another friend, he calls himself a rationalistic non-theist. Well, that's great. At least you're not an atheist, right? Because nobody knows what a rationalistic non-theist is. Talk to a theist, they're not going to have any idea. They're going to nod and smile and walk away and say, oh, at least he wasn't an atheist. Nobody leaves a conversation with me having any doubt at all. And that's the way it should be. That guy that I just talked to with a smile on his face was an atheist, a real atheist, and he wasn't all that bad. We don't do anything to de-demonize the word when we avoid the word. We don't teach when we avoid teaching opportunities. Finally, atheists honoring religion. Oh boy. Atheists honoring religion legitimizes it in the eyes of the theists, but religion deserves no honor, and theists, again, deserve honesty without hostility. I will digress. I know I'm running low on time, so I'll quick it up. But this is an important story. I have a friend of mine who's a Muslim, and a few months ago, he came to me and he said, Dave, you know what? I really got to tell you, I respect your position. I said, really? He says, yeah, you present your case in a logical and rational form, and you know what? I really respect that. And I said, thank you. And he said, and you know, now that I've respected you, you also should respect my religious belief. No. That's not the way it works. You respect my religious beliefs because my religious beliefs that are respectable. They're based in logic. They're based in rationality. And if you prove me wrong, I'll change my mind. Your religious beliefs are that there's an invisible magic man in the sky who sent a prophet down here who flew away on a winged horse. No, that's not rational. That's not reasonable. And he got mad. Too bad. Because he's my friend, and he is injured. He is an injured person. And if I had done the easy thing and said, yes, Robert, I respect your religion, just like you respect mine, he would have smiled, he would have shaken my hands, and we would have walked away with happy faces. And I would have further legitimized and cemented the poison in his brain from an atheist point of view. I would have done him no favors. I would have been rude and mean, not rude, but mean to my friend. I would have been selfish because what I did do is I took the harder road to my friend. And I said, no, man, I respect you, but your religious beliefs are idiots. They're ludicrous. And I'm not going to respect that. You respect mine because my beliefs are respectable. I don't respect yours because yours are not. And he got mad. A little, but he'll get over it. But guess what? I just chipped away at the legitimacy of his religion in his brain. Maybe not a lot, but a little. And if we're going to accept that Christopher Hitchens was right and that religion is a poison in the brain, we must accept our ethical responsibility, if not to try and take religion down, at least not to reinforce it by saying, yes, I respect your beliefs. Yes, it's relevant. Yes, it's reasonable. Yeah, Muhammad, winged horse. Yeah, that's all reasonable. If we lie and feign respect for the unrespectable, we hurt our theistic friends by cementing the poison in their brain instead of helping them to see a more diverse world and chipping away at that pedestal on which religion sits in their brains. But doesn't religion also do harm? I'm out of time, so I'm going to go real fast. Now, I saw your billboard and decided to go back in the closet. These are the complaints I get. You know what, folks? That's a lie, okay? That's a lie. Nobody looks at a billboard and says, I don't like that billboard. Jesus. No. That doesn't happen. That's a lie. If anybody looks at a billboard and turns around, they're using that billboard as an excuse to turn around because they were already deciding to do it. But frankly, I have yet to meet a single atheist turned religious because our billboards were too bad. Our billboards were too harsh. However, the number of complaints I get about this are huge. Oh, you make us all look bad. Let me tell you something, folks. We look worse when we look like pushovers. We look worse when we say thank you for taking away our rights. Oh, you don't want us to draw Muhammad anymore? Okay. Oh, you don't want us to say anything bad about Muhammad anymore? Okay. What other Muslim rules would you like us to obey? Because that's coming. We don't look good when we do that. We look good when we draw Muhammad because they tell us we can't draw Muhammad. Theists will like us better if we coddle them. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take anything from this presentation, please take this. Theists liking us is not the objective. Equality is our objective. If theists love us because we acquiesce to inequality, we fail. If they hate us because we demand equality and achieve it, we succeed. Please remember that. We are not in the game of being liked. We are in the game of being equal. You sound like a religion when you push your agenda so hard. No, 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 no. You know what? Religion pushes itself, and our atheism has to push itself too. Yeah, we do that. Just because religion does something doesn't mean we can't. Just because religion does something doesn't mean we can't. What makes us sound like a religion, well, it doesn't make us sound like a religion. It makes us sound like we're sick of being second-class citizens, which, by the way, we are. So, change the country and be a firebrand. Always, always, always call yourself an atheist. That's the only word, because that's the only word that will de-demonize the word. That's the only word that everybody knows what the definition is. That's the only word that people are asking about when people say, what's your religious belief? They don't want a long explanation. They want to know what's your religious belief. And no matter if you're a secular humanist, no matter if you're a secular Jew, no matter what you call yourself, your religious belief is atheist. Openly compare gods to other myths. Invite challenges to your analogies. Oh, I don't believe in Santa Claus either. Oh, you think God and Santa Claus aren't the same thing? Why? Tell me why. What's different between your God and Santa Claus? What's different between your God and other gods? Invite those analogies. Get those wheels turning, because in many cases, our theistic friends have never examined that issue. Bash religion at will, but don't bash victims. Pity the victims. Don't bash the victims. Challenge loudly any encroachment of religion into your liberty or your life. Draw Muhammad. Put a picture up. Do whatever you want to do, even if they tell you you can't. In fact, especially if they tell you you can't. Never apologize for insulting religion, and be prepared to openly and loudly call out people who claim to be insulted personally because you insulted their religion. People do that. They say you insulted. If I insult you, you're going to tell me if you're offended or not. But if I insult a god, there is no God to say I'm offended. So people say, well, you've offended my God. They just assume the offense. Call them on that. They can't do that. God will tell you if he's offended. And defend other firebrands. Avoid attacking intra-movement whenever possible. Here's an idea. Avoid attacking intra-movement whenever possible. And one more thing. Try to avoid attacking intra-movement whenever possible. Look, there's a lot of us in here, and there's a lot of representation in here. My good friend Dave Neosi is sitting here, and the joke that we have between us is that he's the nice Dave, and I'm not. But so he's going to do his thing, and I'm going to do my thing, and yeah, we have different things, but we're on the same side. And while we might, not agree on everything, we are on the same side. We are allies. We are friends in this fight, and we're on the same team. And finally, don't be afraid of softies calling you a dick because they are wrong and we have data. Nah, 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 nah. Thank you very much. There you go. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I won't be staying around. Thank you. I'm sorry I won't be staying around. I do have to bolt, but it's really been an honor to be here, and I really appreciate the invitation. Thank you very much.
Let's hear it up for David Silverman. Woo! And of course he has to leave, and he was talking about Bill O'Reilly, so I thought of that. You know, we all know the quote, sun goes up, sun goes down, David comes in, David comes out. Well, I have another quote by Bill O'Reilly. We'll do it live, fuck it!